Hello and welcome to the Tifo Football podcast. I'm Joe Devine, and today I'm delighted to be joined solo in the studio by the one, the only, that's what his mother calls him, it's Jon Mackenzie.
Hello.
It's weird that your mother calls you Jon Mackenzie, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's to distinguish me from her other son.
John the Baptist.
Yeah.
That's the first John that came to mind. What other Johns are there? John...
It's a pretty top
King
tier
John.
John McGovern?
Yeah.
John.
King John?
John McGovern used to follow me on Twitter. I don't think he does anymore.
Who is John McGovern? Why do
He's
I
like
know?
someone in the Labour Party. Or was.
Oh, yeah, John McGovern.
Did you see Adam Curtis has got a new...
No, I didn't.
He's got a new series out, Joe.
Has he?
It's 5 episodes long and it's called Shifty.
Oh, I've seen Shift. That's like a year and a half old, man.
Okay.
It's not a year and a half old. It's about 4 months old.
Okay.
I should have known that he didn't have a new thing out again.
Is it good?
Why?
It's really good, yeah.
Why are we here?
Why are we here?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, these are the very questions that Adam Curtis seeks to get to the heart of, Steve, and often does a very successful job. We're here primarily, I think, to ask the audience to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I think that's the main reason we're here. I've got a list of things to get through. Don't you worry, Steve. Here we go. List item number 1. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. If that's you, if you're watching my face or listening to a browser page that's watching my face, please just press that subscribe button.
And
I'll
the
let
bell
you in.
as well.
And no, don't press the bell. That's just torturous.
Just press the bell.
Don't press the bell.
I don't know what the bell does, but you should...
The bell notifies people.
Definitely press the bell.
Don't press the bell. That's torture.
Press the bell.
I'll let you in a little secret.
What does the bell mean?
It just means you get notified.
What's wrong with that?
Well, no, why would anyone want to be notified that this has happened? Don't do that. Just it doesn't matter.
Press the bell.
Oh my God. What? This is only item 1 on the list. What I'm saying is, the thing is these days, okay, the thing is these days, YouTube is very sophisticated. It has a very sophisticated feed system that it feeds you exactly what it knows that you want. So if you watch this show anyway, it's always going to feed it to you. Unless you take a break and don't watch it for a couple of months, it might stop feeding it to you. But if you watch this regularly, it's going to feed it to you. Subscribing's not really going to do anything different for you, but it does for me. So please do it. So that's item list number 1. Number 2. This is a long.
It's number 2. Press the bell.
No, the bell is not in the list.
Oh.
Number 2. If you're listening to the show, please leave us a favourable rating and/or comment on your listening platform of choice. If that's Spotify, hey, leave a friendly comment underneath the episode. If you listen on Apple, please leave a review and a rating. The reason I ask is because unlike YouTube, which, as we've just discussed, has a very sophisticated feed system and allows for incredible levels of discoverability.
Yes,
exactly.
I knew the word.
That was one of the words I was going to use, and it wasn't bell.
Press the bell.
Most of the listening platforms for podcasts have absolute dog discoverability, and you can't be discovered unless you are featured in one of the special playlists, which we are not, because we sit around talking about bells.
I was thinking of my favourite bells, but like people who are called bells. So like Alexander Graham Bell.
Michael Bell?
Michael Bell. Graham Bell.
Graham Bell, yeah.
Craig Bellamy?
Curra Bell. Now, do you know who Curra Bell is?
Who's Curra Bell?
Curra Bell is the pen name of Charlotte Bronte.
Oh, really?
Because she had to pretend to be a man in order to sell her work.
Oh, was it really? That's interesting. Didn't know that. Do you know, whenever I went on holiday not just a holiday, anytime I went on a trip anywhere for a period of about 2 years, so that was maybe 15 trips in that period of time, I would buy a little bell from my friend Richard. He didn't want them. But I thought
What were they made of? Were they...
No, they were real bells.
Not like the little pottery ones with like a...
No, they were actual real metal bells, I would go to wherever a souvenir or antique store was or something, and I would say, do you have a little bell? And they would say, yes, here's one. Once I nearly bought one in West Cork in Ireland. And then the woman had to say, I've realised I can't sell this to you. It's the bell for the shop. To notify the customers here. I was damn, missed out on that bell. Anyway, I bought him about 15 bells overall.
Does he still have them?
I assume so. He didn't want any of them, and he didn't find it very funny, but I found it very funny every time I visit him. I got you a little bell. I bought you a bell. I went to America and came back with a bell for you. Anyway, speaking of no, not that. It's going to be hard work for you, Steve. Here we go. Something got cut. Anyway, what happened on today's episode? That was a long intro. Well, how much pressure should Arne Slot be under? That's not in the show anymore, Steve, is it?
Crap, no.
We cut that bit from the show because the show's so overlong. And also, John is doing this very topic on the Athletics Week in Football show, which you can watch on the Athletic FC YouTube channel. Releases Saturday this week. Check out, if you want to hear John talking about Liverpool, watch that. If you don't watch that. Or watch it anyway.
Don't press the bell.
Here's things we definitely did talk about on this episode. We spoke about Paul Pogba's return to competitive football after 2 years, although we did get distracted quite a lot about the match-going process of Carrow Road, Norwich City's football stadium. Reviews are mixed, we discover, for Carrow Road, not for Paul Pogba, although they are mixed for Paul Pogba as well. After that, we had a chat about Vinícius Jr., who is currently experiencing some relationship problems with Xabi Alonso, I think it's fair to say. We talk about that, which leads us in to being joined by our special guest in the second half of the show, Saul Isaksson-Hurst, who is a one-to-one coach. He's worked with the likes of Noni Madueke, who we talk about, John's favourite, Antoine Semenyo, I mean, he really is your favourite, and Folarin Balogun as well, who isn't your favourite, but who's still a very good footballer. How about that? So we actually ask him a little bit about what he thinks of the Vinícius Jr. situation. And then we talk about him, talk about his career, ask him if he'd prefer to have a full-time professional chef or driver. That was fun. And at the very, very end of the show, there is a series of very reductive quickfire questions where he reveals the truth about who is the best football coach, who's going to win the Premier League, and one other thing I already forgot because it was stupid. And that's the show.
Yeah, really interesting with Saul. Made loads of notes in my mind.
You made
for my 7-aside
mind notes.
Improvement 7-aside. We were talking about the sort of individual stuff. Really interesting.
Are you saying you're stealing coaching from Saul?
He gave it freely.
He gave it.
I know, I was going to say, Steve's so like Southern England, but occasionally he'll throw in he gave it.
He gave it.
He gave it.
Give it free.
Raised by Northerners, so it does occasionally come out.
It's true.
He
We are
goes.
both very Northern.
I'm the most Northern person here. I don't want to have to go through this again, but I am officially the most Northern.
Culturally.
No,
Yeah,
not culturally.
You also spoke
Geographically.
about running away from home, didn't you, at one point in today's
Yes,
episode?
I ran south.
Where were you when that story was told?
Lancaster.
Lancaster, of
The
course.
most
Lancashire.
northern place.
Yeah.
Technically, I am the most Northern person right now
Why is that?
because the Thames is down there, so that means the North is up there. And
Well,
I'm
hang on. I
slightly
mean,
closer.
technically, where do I live? That's way further north than that.
No, he
right
means
now,
in your
you're
current
south.
location.
Oh, I
You're,
see.
you're downwind of me, Steve. You're south.
That's not how wind works.
Well, it's obviously
Especially
a
not in
stiff
here.
northerly.
Anyway.
Something got cut.
No, it didn't.
No, it
It
didn't.
stayed.
All right, there
It's
we go.
very weird just having me and you on this podcast, isn't it?
Do you think it's weird?
A bit, yeah, because like it's just like we're having a conversation like we often do.
That's what a podcast is.
But I need to remember that because of the context.
Oh, you're worried you're going to get yourself cancelled.
Yeah, well,
Because
not
that's true in
cancelled,
private.
but,
You
like,
do say a lot of things that you wouldn't say publicly.
Unbelievable.
True.
Yeah.
Something got cut.
Do you remember that time that you called? Where else to begin, John, than with the etymology of the word toilet? It just coincidentally, I have the etymology for... this actually really is a coincidence. I have the etymology for the word toilet up here on my computer because we were talking about it earlier.
We were.
By earlier, you mean away from the podcast
Away from the
studio?
podcast, yeah. I
Yes.
mean, around
Just
the
for-
kitchen table,
Yes.
we were talking about this.
Not around the toilet.
No, because I think I watched a TikTok video or something earlier or the other day where someone was saying this. Anyway, the one of the etymologies of the word toilet, it either comes from the French word toilette, meaning dressing room, or a small cloth, which was used for grooming. So I can't remember. I wish I could remember who it was so I could credit them.
So they would
add a
say
little bit of
toilet
makeup.
without the toilet.
Yeah, I
as in
think so,
toilet
yeah.
as a
Going to
verb.
toilette. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Eau de toilette.
Yeah.
But
No.
it's interesting when I guess rooms become named after what they are for, right?
Bedroom,
Yeah, dining room, I guess, is sort of
living room.
yeah, that's the room you live in.
But I mean, that is the room you spend most of the time in.
Did people draw much in drawing rooms, I guess?
But I think the interesting thing about the toilet thing is that the actual physical object of the toilet has now become named after what the room.
Yeah,
was
because
named.
the room's the bathroom generally, unless of course you live in a home where your toilet is in a separate room from the sink and shower, which I have done. What's your situation currently?
Yeah.
Are you all in the same room?
All in the same room.
You have a real bathroom. Yeah. What about you? You live in a sort of cottage.
Yes. So we do have a toilet.
Yeah. But is it in the same room as the bath?
Yeah. But however, my grandparents in Liverpool had an outdoor toilet, as did my grandparents in Manchester. Yeah. Remember very cold trips as a child to.
Was it made of brick?
Yes.
So it was literally a brick shit house.
It was.
That's exciting, isn't it? An outhouse. We were sort of saying they used to be called a water closet. You know?
Indeed.
Anyway, those are all different terms for rooms and toilets.
A very important position historically for the English monarchy was the groom of the stool, who would help the king go.
You can't groom a stool, Steve. Everyone knows that.
They would be the person who
you can't polish a turd and you can't groom a stool.
It was the most intimate of the sort of positions at court because they would literally be there as the king or queen, generally king, was doing their poos or wees.
Well, it's Thanksgiving today. In America,
not here. No thanks should be given here.
When this episode is released,
it is indeed. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, producer Steve, for being on the same wavelength as me there. No, that just came to mind because I thought there's people at Thanksgiving. I know that they eat a lot of yams. I expect there'll be one or two American listeners who will have done rather large bowel movements today. We'll spend quite a lot of time with the toilet. The toilet's on my mind a lot at the moment, John.
Yeah, seemingly.
Because I've just moved into a new home.
Where there's no toilet.
Then there's no toilet there. Yeah. No, there is a toilet. Too tall is this toilet.
Are you going to change it?
I think I'm going to change it. The thing that surprises me about it, right, is that one, it's a relative new build. The building is only about 7 years old, right? So it's not like this isn't someone's custom toilet choice. This is the toilet that came with the building. Okay, this is the building installed toilet, and I'm thinking
the communal garden
toilet. And I'm thinking, who wants a toilet this tall? I'm tall.
Yeah,
I'm tall.
You are tall.
And if I think I'm too high off the ground, I'd
be with my legs.
I think your feet wouldn't touch the floor.
Yeah, I think so.
I also think
you can't take a shit without your feet on the floor.
You need your knees to be raised. That all of the science tells us that like the lower you go, the higher your knees go, the better. That's the better position.
Is that the science?
No, it is. Yeah, you're less likely to cause issues with your anus if you're in that position.
Good to know.
Are we talking about piles again?
Well, we're not talking about piles today, but we could be if I don't get my toilet fixed. That's all I'm saying. If I don't get a lower toilet, so I'm looking into toilets. And I realised that these Japanese toilets are all the rage. My wife won't let me get one. She doesn't like buttons.
Japanese toilet?
They're very high-tech toilets. They have bidets built in. Often. Sometimes they have warm toilet seats and such. And I don't know. They talk to you. I don't know.
I know there's a big Slavoj Žižek bit where he does about the differences between European toilets because in the English toilet the stool goes straight down. You don't really see it, right?
Sure.
Whereas in the German toilet, I believe it has like a big pan so you can look at it. And you were saying it indicates a lot about the different psyches of the different nations.
Whether they want to look or not.
The British people want it just to go away. They don't want to see it, whereas the Germans want to
flush away my problems. I agree. I just came back from New York City, as you know, and I always forget every time I go to America that the toilet bowl is full of water in America. The bowl it's so here in the UK, for American listeners who are listening now who have no idea what I'm talking about, if you imagine that there was only a little bit of water at the bottom of your toilet, that's what we're working with here. When we go to America, it's like we fill the sink and then do a poo in it. It's the strangest thing. So strange.
Surely the splashback is inevitable.
There's more splashback. Oh, there's more splashback for sure. You could say that there's less of a distance, there's less droppage, so gravity plays less of an effect, and therefore the splashback is, so it maybe much of a muchness.
Slips in, is what you're saying.
I think if you did a particularly long you're going to cut that out. You've got to cut that there. That's too much. Something did get cut there, and not in
it
was poo related.
It went graphic.
It was too much.
Yeah.
It was too much. Anyway, hey, another thing is Paul Pogba made his return. He made it his Monaco. His Monaco?
Monaco. That's quite a nice
Monocle.
Monocle. He made his monocle debut. Yeah. Just one eye. Against Rennes on Saturday, of course, for Monaco.
Do you know that I was at Paul Pogba's Manchester United debut?
Were you?
Yeah, he came.
Who was it against?
It was against Leeds. I was at Elland Road, and it was his first debut because, as you remember, he went away and came back.
He did, yeah.
So he came on as I think maybe 16-year-old against Leeds in an FA Cup or League Cup game. Wow. And I was there.
Did he do anything?
Not that I can remember.
Probably not in that game, right?
I think Michael Owen played in that game as well.
Well,
I got a parking ticket because I was late to the game and I parked up in a side street and ended up being a street you're not allowed to park in.
You drove to a football game?
Yeah.
That feels like a really antiquated thing to do, doesn't it? I can't think of anyone driving to football.
That's kind of on you.
Because you live in London. And
Actually, I used to drive to Norwich a lot with Uncle Damien.
Is that why you think it's antiquated? Because you did it in the past and now you don't do it now?
That's true.
That seems to be a really misunderstanding of the word.
No, it's because Uncle Damien has done really rather well for himself, and so he has parking near the stadium and special posh seats in. Well, he doesn't anymore. Now he's got normal seats. He's traded them in because he's a real football fan. You know, but we used to have padded seats at.
You disgust me.
You know what? Never go back, man. It's like when you fly a premium economy or whatever. It's like, well, this is it now. I'm staying here forever. God forbid I ever go business
thinking
class.
About the state of your arse, aren't you? That's
well,
what I've determined.
If you could choose to have a padded seat over not, then why wouldn't you? You know, you obviously would do that.
Were you in a box?
Not in a box, but I'm trying to remember the name at Carrow Road. Obviously, there's on either side of the stadium. They
have two stands.
There's I think it might be like the Brian Gunn Lounge or something on one side, which is where Uncle Damien is now. Not in this very moment, but when he goes to the games,
because he's a proper football man. He never leaves.
He goes to so many away games as well. That guy. And then on the other side, there's like a restaurant. So
do you want me to look this up?
You could if you want. For many years, Uncle Damien had four tickets at this little table in this restaurant. So what would happen is you'd go to the football, you'd get there sort of like 90 minutes ahead of kickoff. You'd have a delightful meal prepared by Delia's staff. And then you would have a little drink, wander out through into the stands, and sit down in your padded seat right on the halfway line. Half time, back in, get a warm cup of something. There are things available, treats, cookies, biscuits, whatever. They've got stuff happening in there, and there would always be an ex-pro in there as well who would interview one of the players, usually an injured player. Anyways, it's fantastic. He's now got tickets around the other side where you go in the bar beforehand, and then you get. The one cool thing there is, apart from being in the cool bar, is they bring out whoever was player of the match and they interview them about an hour after the game is finished. So you kind of get that. If Norwich have won, actually, I should say they did this the last time I was there. I don't know if they're still doing it, but
they haven't won much recently either. So
if they'd won, like that, those were great raucous events. If they'd lost. And they brought the captain out.
I've got a weird memory of Adam Armstrong at Southampton, maybe, or somewhere else. I can't remember. Maybe he was on loan somewhere. But they did exactly that, and they'd lost something like 5-0.
Yeah.
And he'd been made like home team man of the match, and then had to go out and like give a prize. I think he had to give a prize to someone's mom who'd guessed that they would lose 5-0. You need to find it.
It's brave, man.
It's very funny.
Honestly, it's brave. Yeah, and I did see footballers get heckled when they came in those rooms.
There are also 6 designated named areas for stands at Carrow Road. I would thought 4,
right?
4 corners, but no, 6.
They've got the big famous turning screen, the big screen.
Wow!
I don't know if you've seen that. It's like it was I think it was the first one in England. It's self-supported on a stand on its own, and it turns slowly so that you can see the score. It's pretty.
There's also an infill area called the Snake Pit between two of them. So not only have they got 6 areas named in the stadium, which I would argue is too many. There's an additional infill area known as the Snake Pit.
Wow,
informally.
The Snake Pit. How about that? It's exciting, isn't it? Anyway, I think I was at the game where. Do you remember when Alexis Sanchez got pushed into the camera?
That was against Norwich, yeah.
I was at that game. It did look really bad from the.
I can imagine how fuming Steve would have been.
He would have been very upset.
He would have been. He'd have been there in his little football shorts and little football socks. And a football shirt.
You get cold there.
And the captain's armband is taking it a bit far.
That's right. What are we talking about? Oh, Paul Pogba. That's right. No. So it's his first game in more than 2 years. You'll remember that he did originally receive a ban for 4 years. That was reduced to 2 in the end. I've seen quite a lot of people write and talk about this, which I think is a testament to Paul Pogba as a player and perhaps as a character person. That people still want to talk about it. I mean, at times, he was absolutely incredible, wasn't he? I think it's worth saying that he's maybe going to be remembered as more of an icon than he is of a footballer. And I think it's probably unlikely that as a 32-year-old coming on in the 85th minute of a 4-1 defeat for Monaco. I think he's going to set the world on fire. But in many ways, what's happened to his career seems kind of sad, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's a very wistful player in many respects, right? Because there's probably very few players in the world, in the history of the sport, where the gap between what their ceiling was and where they actually ended up was so different in terms of distance. But a guy who could do incredible things on a football pitch that no one else could do, and yet it doesn't really seem to have had certainly in terms of like results and trophies and things like that. He hasn't really had the sort of accolades he deserves. But it's funny, isn't it? Because I think there's a lot of players like that where they don't live up to their potential, and then on the other side you get players who achieve an incredible amount despite the fact that they don't seem as though they have the potential to get there. He had a successful period with Juventus, right, and then beyond that didn't live up to expectations. But
I mean, Pogba won 4 Serie A with Juventus, couple of Coppa Italia, Champions League final in 14-15 as well. So he had a really...
never won the Premier League.
No.
I was going to say of Paul Pogba that I remember the time... This makes me feel really old, but given that he's 32 now, I remember watching videos of him as a 16-year-old playing in the Man United academy. I feel like those videos, Ravel Morrison was of his class as well. There were a couple of other players in that group who playing. I think James Garner was probably one of them.
Ravel Morrison's interesting because he's a very similar kind of player to what we just talked about. I mean,
he came to mind when you said the gap between in theory potential and reality. But Paul Pogba, he was so good that his child highlights transcended like team fandom, right? Like they hit, I mean, there weren't feeds back in the day, but like everybody saw those. Yeah. He scored some absolutely outrageous goals as a teenager. And I think people were so excited about him coming through. I remember it was the first time that I'd really experienced fans of a team being angry at a manager like Alex Ferguson for not playing him sooner or not holding on to him. Like, even though Man United fans had barely seen him when he left for Juventus, there was a fervour at the time that this had been allowed to happen. I think it was considered a big error, and obviously them spending £100 million to bring Pogba #Pogback at the time, like that was greeted with such incredible fanfare. It feels a real shame. And the thing I always think about, we talked about this a little bit the other day when this topic came up. The thing I always think about is with players like this who didn't achieve their potential is, there's a certain amount of it that's perhaps in their control. There's a certain amount of it that isn't. I feel like the difference with Paul Pogba, and the theme will become apparent, is that
it's not toilets.
It's not toilets. No, that he was like, the main thing I remember about him in culture is that he was constantly criticised for his hair color, and like, I think it will surprise no one for us to say that like he was evidently treated differently because he's a black footballer.
Yeah,
and there would be white footballers who were like of the same personality, of the same flair, of the same whatever, who would play and act in the way that he did and not be treated the same way. And obviously, like, I don't know him. I don't know what kind of impact that would have on somebody. I'm not saying that his career's gone the way it has because of that. I think that will definitely have contributed to it in some way or another. And
I think even beyond that, though, it goes beyond how he responds to it, to how the football industry just has ways of fitting players of certain profiles into the game, right? And with Paul Pogba, what you got was like an incredible balance of technicality and physicality, athleticism, and the ability to use that in the most delicate ways. And yet, I mean, I've spoken to people in the football industry who will say, as soon as a midfielder is black, there's a very specific idea of what that player should be, which may not match up to what he can do.
It's usually about physicality.
Physicality, exactly. It's like this idea that N'Golo Kante was just like a water carrier who ran around winning the ball back. But again, that's absolutely not what he did. I think Pogba almost certainly suffered for that as well. The big conversation about him, as I remember, was just like, do you remember for a while it was just like, we need to sign someone to bring the best out of Pogba, right? And it was how do you fit him into that team to do what he wants to be able to do? And so I think in that respect, he was let down.
Also, we just made this video on Tifo Sports about Victor Wembanyama, who's an NBA player. He's like incredibly tall, French, amazing. If you're watching this, you haven't seen his highlights, you should, if you want to watch an alien play football, it's absolute play basketball. It's like absolutely incredible. The video is about his height, and it's called "How Tall Is He Actually?" And when this idea was pitched to me by Kaya, who wrote about it, I naturally assumed that like it would be someone lying about being taller than they were. But in the NBA, apparently there's like a rich history of players lying to say that they were shorter than they are because they don't want to get profiled as in a particular way. And particularly when you hit that 7 foot barrier, if you're 7 foot or over, it historically you were a center. That's it. You played like the more boring post up,
7
like
foot
slightly.
or over is such a stupid word to say.
I know, like the not one of the like more exciting, flashy roles. Some incredible centers in the history of the NBA. Some of the best players ever were. Shaquille O'Neal is a great example of one, but it's not the role that everybody wanted to play. So there's been this history of players lying about their height. In the case of Victor Wembanyama, I think he's listed as like 7'2" or something. He's probably more like 7'4". Right. That just comes to mind when we talk about like players being profiled based on like things that are in some cases arbitrary. And with Paul Pogba, in many ways, his height was kind of arbitrary. Like he used it to good effect in certain situations, and I think he like improved as a header of the ball throughout his career. He was good at shielding the ball, but often you felt like his height kind of got in the way of what he was actually good at as a footballer.
Yeah, and I think this is it. I think as a result of the preconceptions that we have about stereotypes in the game. Things like this can happen, and as a result, I don't think Pogba got anywhere near the level that he probably should have done. And again, like he was playing for Manchester United at a point in time when they went through like some of the roughest spells they've had in their recent history. So that's like an external thing. And again, like even just his play style is, again, we were talking before about some players who can make the most of what they have, and often those players I think have the ability to be gritty and like mobile and run around and do big tackles and stuff, and he obviously wasn't really in that school of thinking. And so part of it kind of almost looks like he was people used to just sort of criticize his languid style a little bit, as though he wasn't bothered and stuff like that as well. And I think all of these things do play a role in people's judgments of footballers. And I think the overall outcome is that we're talking about Paul Pogba in a way that just if we'd have, I just remember talking about him back in, whenever he was at his height. If I'd have known at that point, we'd be talking about him like this now as a sort of afterthought, as a guy who's coming onto the pitch for 5 minutes at the end of a Ligue 1 game, then I'd have been amazed at that possibility. So
many things you would have been amazed about looking back, true, isn't there? Yeah. So many things.
Yeah.
Here's another one potentially for the future. Vinícius Jr. The story came out in the last couple of days that he has told Real Madrid that he does not want to renew his contract, which expires in June 2027, while his relationship with head coach Xabi Alonso remains so strained. Alonso has acknowledged the importance of managing relationships this week, speaking during Tuesday's pre-match press conference, right, Steve, before they play Olympiacos on Wednesday evening, which is tonight, so we don't know the result of that, right, Steve?
Yep.
I just wasn't checking that I didn't know.
You're checking out time words.
I know I don't know the result.
It's why I wrote in that weird way, because of the
confirmation for the audience that we haven't seen that yet.
Timey-wimey stuff.
Alonso was asked how much of a priority managing egos is in his role as head coach. He replied, "It's as important as the footballing philosophy, the tactical work, the physical work. Managing personalities, getting the best out of players, making them feel as good as possible. It's a process that has different ups and downs, which you have to know how to handle well in any team, and especially at Real Madrid." I mean, what do you make of this situation? Because on the one hand, there's one of the best players in the world who is, I mean, it's like pretty crazy of a news story that it's public. He's saying he doesn't want to re-sign his contract, or he won't at this moment in time.
Turn down 20 million a year, which seems a lot of money to me.
Woof. Yeah. But also, I think it's very like emblematic of what I suppose the severe edge of what we expected to happen when Real Madrid hired a coach like Alonso after someone like Carlo Ancelotti was. That's also what it is. So this speaks to something bigger as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think there's two different angles that I would go on with this. One of them is, as you say, we've talked about this a lot in our content, right? This idea that historically speaking, Barcelona are the sort of system team, and they have their, they've got the Cruyff legacy, the Guardiola legacy, and they've always kind of looked for tactical coaches, and they fill those teams with like incredible young players who come through their academy playing the system from an early age. And then you have Real Madrid, who had this Galactico era where they were just signing big players all the time, and the big question was like, how do you get all of these good players into the same team, which almost harks back to what we were talking about before with Liverpool. Actually, we didn't really talk about that at all when it came to Liverpool, but the same kind of thing, right? It's like, how do you get the balance right between the superstar players, but then the rest of the players in the system, so that the whole thing comes together and is better than the sum of its parts. But it's felt more recently that like there's been a slight shift in direction from arguably both teams, although I think that maybe we ham it up a little bit on the Barcelona side, because I still think Hansi Flick fits within that sort of trajectory of coaches. But,
you just love ham.
Yeah, that's right. But with Alonso going to Real Madrid, I think it did really signal this.
Have you got the creaky chair?
It's back.
The creaky chair's found its way back into the room.
I had to really lean to get that to go, so we should be okay. Oh,
yeah, yours is creaky.
Yes. Yeah. I'll avoid leaning.
All chairs will creak at a certain point, right?
But I know, but I feel like that one specifically, we ejected that from the room.
We did.
Creak. I'm trying to think of mottos with the word Greek in that we could use for creak, but like, what?
Have you been here before? I couldn't sit down on the chair,
because I'm a Greek.
Because I'm a Greek.
Because I'm a Greek.
Because I'm a creaky chair.
What the hell am I doing here?
I thought I was removed from here.
I don't belong here.
No, really doesn't belong here. We should just throw it out the window and see what happens.
Either that chair of his own volition has returned to the studio like a ghost, or chairs overusage, multiple creaks occur.
I think there's a third option in there.
Yes,
that a human being has brought the creaky chair back in. I mean, it is feasible. 2 or 3. It could be 2 or 3.
Anyway, Alonso.
Oh yeah.
I think moving Xabi Alonso to Real Madrid signalled this sort of shift that they were trying to move the club tactically into the 21st century or whatever. I mean, regardless of whether or not that is a fair assessment of what's going on, or
is it kicking and screaming, this part of it?
Yeah, it does feel like that, because with Alonso, you what you're going to get is a modern coach, right? And it's felt as though potentially the Galactico approach is becoming less functional in recent years, and I guess you could argue with that, but that it was clear that they've decided that this shift is necessary. And so we've had Xabi Alonso coming in and trying to get Real Madrid to do sort of concerted pressing across the field, controlling space in every phase, and doing the stuff that great players don't really want to do, like running around off the ball and making sure that they're following triggers to jump up onto opponents, etc.
Yeah,
and I guess it hasn't worked. Is the point that this brings us to? But I think what's the other aspect I was talking about before is that we're not just talking about this sort of like perhaps overplayed narrative of the difference between Barcelona and Real Madrid. We're also talking about a situation where Vinícius Jr. is playing in a position where the club has then signed another player who's arguably better than him in that position.
Yeah,
and that makes it more complicated to try and read this situation for me, because I think it's pretty clear that since the Ballon d'Or incident with Vinícius Jr., there's been it's sort of been a decline in terms of the way that he's perceived in the narrative. And
here's some of the things that have happened just before we continue. Written by Mario Cortajana from the Athletic. This was following Madrid's Clásico victory over Barcelona in October. He'd reacted angrily after being substituted by Alonso in the game in the 72nd minute, storming off the pitch and shouting, "Always me, I'm leaving the team. It's better if I leave. I'm leaving."
That's like me leaving work every day.
I mean, once the mics are off and the cameras are off.
That's me. That's like, reminds me of like this really weird... This funny thing I did when I was a kid. I obviously was like, I'd been told off or something in the day. I was really pissed off about it. I was very young. I would have been like 6-7 years old, something like that. And I resolved that evening, after I'd gone to bed, that I was going to run away. But I wanted to leave a note.
I can't think of anyone less suited to running away than you.
I wanted to leave a note for my parents, but I didn't have any paper or anything, or really any pens. I was a child. So for some reason, what I did was I took out a drawer from my desk and I turned it upside down, and then I wrote on like the MDF plywood of the floor of this drawer. I wrote in pencil, scrawled in crayon, "I'm leaving," something like that. "I'll never coming back." I snuck downstairs and I tucked it in the sort of slightly ajar living room door, and then I went back to bed. And my parents never mentioned it to me. And the drawer was back in the drawer. It was just left.
Did you pack your bags?
No. I guess I had no real intention of leaving, but I remember distinctly the feeling of like going downstairs and putting it down there, all the while completely committed to leaving. And then as soon as I put it, I was like, "Well, that's done then. Off to bed, hard day's work. I'll run away in my dreams."
One of the less successful running away stories I've ever heard.
Maybe Vinícius Jr. will actually run away. Always me.
Yeah,
I'm leaving the team.
And
it's better if I leave.
And this is, regardless of which way you go on the Vinícius Jr. thing, and I think, I'm sure the narrative swings both ways. I'm sure he's not as bad as he has appeared, and etc. I don't want to make a judgment on that.
No.
But that's what happens when you have players of this caliber together on the same team, right? And as we're talking about there, like a big part of the job of the Real Madrid coach is to get all of those players to work together. Now, that's the job of a lot of coaches. I don't want to just suggest that Real Madrid are the only club who have good players, but I guess they do have that tradition of the having to manage those egos and the tactical reality of, as we've said before, like allowing those players to sort of almost run the tactics by proxy, and as long as they're happy, they've been able to produce. But it sort of raise a question about whether or not if Xabi Alonso can't do it, a player who, we talk about it all the time, has the gravitas and the experience and the kudos of playing at the highest level.
Yeah.
If he can't come in and implement that kind of approach, then it does raise the question if anyone can.
Let's have a quick advert break, and when we come back, we'll continue talking about Vinícius Jr. with our guest. We've just talked, Saul, about Vinícius Jr. and the situation at Real Madrid. I was curious what your take on a situation like this is, given that you work individually with players. I assume players that you work with sometimes talk to you about their feelings or frustrations or, I don't know, dressing room tensions. Like, with this specific situation in mind, like, where do your sympathies lie or lean?
It's on the case-by-case basis, I think. Depending if I know the player, I know the situation. Obviously, as a coach, I know how frustrating it can be. But as a player, working with these top guys, I know how important it is to be, loved, appreciated. They want to be, the number one, especially the big guys. So it's a difficult situation, really. And, it's, I don't know Vini Jr. I don't really know Alonso either. So.
No. But like mindset-wise, you've worked with players at the top of the game.
Yeah.
We always talk about them here as though they're kind of, like the popular cultural terms are like mental monsters or whatever. I assume Vinícius Jr. having reached where he has in the game, like has a force of will and mental determination. Like, what do you think goes through his mind in a situation like this one, where he's gone from playing for a coach who is maybe more well-renowned for allowing the players to solve the problems on the pitch themselves, to moving to a coach who will have very different requirements of his team?
I think it's difficult. Looking at it from the outside, I mean, Vini Jr. has been the main man, hasn't he, for many years, and he's one of the best players in the world. He's very disappointed not to win the Ballon d'Or a couple of years ago. So,
he was very disappointed.
Well, very disappointed, exactly. So that's the nature of the modern game, I think, with these guys. They're massive superstars, unbelievable footballers, big egos, probably not saying that. So I suppose you've got to take that into consideration and factor that sort of, so I think it's difficult, and I suppose that change of environment, the new coach comes in, he's going to have high expectations and things change. And, and I suppose, he just obviously he feels a bit put out of his place or something like that. So it's a difficult situation, but that's the reality of, working in the best players and all the time. You have to really manage their personalities and make sure they're happy, because if they're not happy, then, then you've got trouble.
Do you notice a big difference between different levels of players? Like, you've worked with some of the players at the very top of the game, presumably you've worked with players a little bit lower than that. Is when we talk about egos, is it very obvious to you as an individual coach that some of these players do need to be dealt with differently because of the way that they are within the hierarchy?
Yes and no. Like I look at someone like Noni, unbelievable mentality, very low ego, like no ego. Like say so friendly, so charismatic.
That's Noni Madueke.
Noni Madueke, sorry, Arsenal's Noni Madueke. I worked with many years. Like you don't really get that from him. You know what I mean? And then I've worked with players or been in environments a bit lower down, and the players seem to have bigger egos. And you think where you've got no right to have that ego, maybe because they're on the top level. So I think it is player per player, but I think you have to understand as well. The fine line between these players being great and these players being good.
Yeah,
and you've really got to cultivate that and support them. And football's about, obviously everyone's got their own perception of who's good. But it's really about confidence.
Yeah,
and if you've got players confident, then it's more than likely then they're going to go out and deliver for you. So I think that's really key. And modern games about dealing with personalities, making players confident and being happy when they go out on that pitch. Basically,
that's a real key difference, isn't it, between like ego and confidence? I know that from John because he's a huge ego, but like absolutely no self-confidence. It's really sad. Let's start from the beginning though, Saul. What do you do? Like you're in, and I mean that seriously. Like, you work with footballers as an individual coach.
Yeah.
What's that? How does that work?
So I'm an individual skills specialist, individual coach. So I support players in becoming more skillful, working on aspects of their game to become more game effective. So a lot of people probably have a misconception of me in terms of what I do. I'm not a fitness coach. I'm a skills coach. So I work with players at all levels: academy football, aspiring pros, Premier League players, into trying to support them into being more game effective. So what does that look like? It means, my specialism is really trying to break down the game into like small examples of those game-changing moments, focusing on that, creating practices that replicate that, and then that feeds into the game.
Right, okay. And so like with professional players, this is like additional to their training time.
Yeah.
Like the way to think about it would be getting an extra tutor if you were
100%. And if you look at the modern player anyway, we talked about those players at the highest level. These days they've got their own chefs. They do have their own fitness people, all. So I'm just another one of this multidisciplinary world that these superstars have. And even this morning I was on the pitch with a semi-pro player and under 21 at Reading. These people want to do extra.
Yeah.
Because the best do more is a bit of a cliche, but I mean, reality is the more you put in, the more you get out in anything in life. So you've got to really work hard. It's the hardest industry in the world, the most saturated market. If you want to make an impact on it, you got to work hard.
This reminds me of my favorite question on social media, which is: would you rather have a full-time personal chef for the rest of your life who makes all your meals, or a driver? What would you choose, Saul?
Wow, that's like the blue. I think I'd have a driver. I don't mind being driven about. I hate driving. Well, I do so much on the road all the time.
Right, I can't drive, so I mean, it's easier for me to have a driver.
I think I would definitely go chef.
In many ways, chef makes more sense because I use Uber regularly, for example, and other rideshare apps are available. But I guess I don't. I mean, I suppose I get a lot of takeaways. It'd be nice to have a chef at the house.
Choose chef.
You think I choose chef if it came down to it?
Yes.
Maybe I would.
Part of me just kind of thinks, when you have at the back of my mind, if only this had happened, then I would be much better than I already am.
Right.
I think not having a personal chef has really held me back in life.
Yeah.
Because I would be healthier.
You would
and
be.
my life would be much more structured if someone's like, your meals are going to be then.
He wouldn't be there at 1 a.m. when you're eating those burritos.
Exactly, which would mean that I would have to have much more structure in my life.
That's true. Yeah, I think that would be good for you. How did you get into this job, Saul?
So I started my coaching career in America. Over 20 years ago, and I was like team coaching, doing camps and stuff like that. And in America, there were very much a culture of doing private training in every sort of field. And then sort of came back after 2 years, started a company in England. Got a job at Tottenham, and I went to the academy. But then I started my one-to-one. I started actually doing camps first, but I thought this is a really sort of saturated market, and so I focused in early on individual training. But sort of became organised, found a niche really. Became quite successful in training players up to getting signed in academies. I got a job at Tottenham in the academy as an individual sort of skill specialist, but working team coaching. So sort of fell into it really as I came back and sort of molded my career early on in that sort of space.
Nice. And then I guess it's like a contacts game in a way, isn't it? Like I suppose like do footballers when they, professional players, when they reach out to you, is it because they've heard about you through a friend or a colleague?
Yeah, I mean, it varies. Could be an agent, could be a friend. I mean, obviously social media as well, the power of social media. I've got, a lot of followers on Instagram. All those guys are on Instagram. Right. So for like Semenyo, for example, came to me in the summer because I was going to south of France. I was looking for a goalie because I was working with Flo Balogun, who Monaco and USA. And he was also, I'm meaning to message you, let's get some work done. And that's how we sort of first connected.
Great. So you're the reason he's suddenly amazing.
Well, I can't take all the credit now.
But some, a little bit.
He's sensational, but yeah, he's unbelievable.
How impressive is it working with someone like him who's just so good with both feet?
Yeah, his technique's unbelievable. One of the best I've seen with his both feet. He had an orthodox technique, like almost knuckleballs it. Can do that with the right and your left foot. I've not really seen that before. He's got everything. He's got great technique, physicality, obviously, speed, power. But with the ball, that's the difference. He has that with the ball. He's top.
So can you talk about like the development of a player like Antoine Semenyo? Because I'm sure when he started working with you, he's already exceptional, right? Like, what are you trying to achieve with him, and how, for want of maybe a better term, like how does he measure his improvement? Of like, what's he looking for?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Antonio, I only started working in the off season, so it's been a smaller, time frame than some of the other players. But he comes in really the first, target's really getting ready for the new season, sharpen him up, get him ready, and then but work on things which you're thinking, right, going to prepare him for the game. So, like I say, my specialism is creating practices which are going to prepare people for the game. So the football actions, they're going to see it, and challenging him with really tough angles, high speed, intensity, stuff like that. And obviously, as our relationship progresses, then we'll start to get into different things where we can really sort of look at the targets to improve.
Okay.
How much do you have to go away and look at what Bournemouth are doing in order to make those bespoke training drills? Are you watching their games and being like, I'm seeing that you're getting into a lot of these areas?
Yeah, I mean, this, for example, when Noni Madueke was at Chelsea and Potter came in, he wanted him to play a bit more central in the pocket. So that was a conversation we had pretty quickly. And then so that our obviously the geography of the pitch where we're working changes as well, because we're trying to prepare him. There's no point in, we're working on different things that the gaffer wants. So we've got to try and support him into doing that. So that was really consciously thinking, right, that's the areas of the pitch you're going to be in, and these are these football actions, these are 1v1 moments, the shooting and finishing moments you might like to have. So yeah, you always have to be aligned with, what's he going to be doing training, because that's the point, isn't it?
Do the club talk to you about things like that?
No, they don't really. I mean, no, they don't, and they're probably not a big fan of what I do, because they want to, and you can't blame them because they want to control everything. But the reality is, these guys come and see me. They want to see me. They want to do more, and that's I'm filling that void for them.
And how does it work with obviously the risks of like injury and things like that?
Yeah, you just got to obviously be conscious of where they are in their loading. During the season, if we are working during the season, we still need to get the high intensity of the quality, but you just have longer recoveries. You're not doing lots of high intensity running, for example. It's all short and sharp. So you have to really help manage, and the players know their body as well. So you have to, be conscious of that and not going out and just, doing loads of sprint work and stuff like that.
I've got so many questions. I feel bad about keeping going, but maybe one more on this topic, because I guess the question I would have then is, do you think that these players are generally being underserved in terms of the technical skills, individual coaching at their clubs? Because some clubs will have individual focused coaches.
Yeah, they do. I think the reality is that no matter what, they just can't get round to every single player. And that's not anyone's, against anybody else's, systems or structure. But I mean, what the players tell me is, and the reality is, it's difficult because the way the Premier League structure as well, in their week, majority of the sessions are going to be boxes, possessions, positional. And the irony is these guys are on, fantastic wages. They're the superstars because of what they do in the game, those game-changing moments, and they don't really get a chance to practice those. They might get 10 minutes at the end, a bit of extras, but there's lots of other coaches there, lots of other players there. Sorry. So to get my specialism is, that's what I believe I'm world class at. I can support that. I can create practices which are going to support players like that. That's my specialism. Now, some players say, they'll come out and say, the coach has said, no, sorry, we'll do some for you. But they say, well, it's not necessarily as well. They don't have enough background in doing that. So that's why they'd rather come and see me sometimes. But it's difficult. It's probably a bit of a sensitive area as well.
Yeah, of course.
I quite like that idea, though, of the not being able to practice the game-winning moments necessarily, just practicing the kind of the floor-raising moments in the team sessions. How do you practice game-winning moments? Like, what does a one-on-one session that you do with the player typically look like? Just take us through it from the beginning.
So it's about...
What time is it?
What time? Well,
genuinely, because they have busy training schedules and stuff. What time is it?
Yeah, it depends, because in the off season I might be going away for 5 days in Marbella with Noni, or off season, like say with Semenyo and Balogun. So
5 days of night clubbing. Then what happens after?
I'm tucked in early watching Netflix. Trust me, because I'm a professional. I'm so old for that anyway. But yeah, so it depends. If they come on an off day, it might be a morning session or might be an afternoon session. So it really depends. But in terms of what I do, my job is I create position specific sessions.
Yeah.
So I look at the player, look at the profile, look at their position. What are the game changing moments for that player? In terms of, for example, use like a wide forward player, whether it's Antoine or Noni, it's that what they're going to be just creating and scoring. And so really, in and around the box, that final third play of being able to, 1, break pressure and 2, break lines. And then obviously, pass forward, cross or shot. It's lots of finishing, shooting, works, but movements. My methodology focusing on the 1v1 duel. So me against you, that defender. How can you receive the ball to try and get past that defender? And it's always an end product. So I'm really fixed in terms of what does the game look like. The player has to see the game in the practice. And a lot of people will criticize my work, so maybe don't understand it. They say, "Oh, there's no decision making, or there's no context." I said, "There's always context, and that's what's really key." The player we talk about. This is, for example, this area of the pitch on the wide in the box. What are the different, individual tactics, if you like, that are going to help you break that line. These guys obviously they're superstars. They got all the ideas. I'm maybe tweaking, supporting, and maybe this is what we could do as well. So trying to create those practices that are game like. I'm going to prepare the player for the game, and then they go, right, when they're in that situation, boom, I've done that finish 100 times, I can do that.
Do you bring in other people to work with them as well, as in like if you're working like I don't know, going around a fullback?
That's what I was going to ask. Do you hire goalkeepers?
Always goalie.
Goalie.
These guys always want a goalie, and if they don't have a goal, that's how Antoine came about Semenyo, because Flo Balogun said he won't work without a keeper. So he goes, right, so can he come to south of France for 5 days, Monaco? I said, lovely. He goes, yeah, but I need a goalie. And I'm like, right, so I've just got to source a goalkeeper in the south of France, so 24 hours. It's not easy.
Did you find a local goalkeeper?
I found a local goalie, because I had to say we have to fly one out. I found a local keeper, good keeper.
Does he just play? What level does he play at?
He plays like I was 18, about to go for a full scholarship in America.
Wow. Was it the best thing he'd ever done?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's so right. Cool.
And we had Flo Balogun and Antoine Semenyo smashing balls in. It was like the dream, right?
Did he get depressed after?
Well, I think he's just pleased to be there, as anyone would be. So yeah, that's so you need a goalie. Obviously, we work with passive pressure. We don't do live pressure because obviously the injury problems. Use a mannequin, or get someone else to step in, a bit of passive pressure, just to have that context, or that that try and fix it to the game. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, so we've touched already on what the differences between group coaching might be, individual coaching.
Yeah,
something that we've had this conversation before that I think can happen a lot with individual coaches is that there's a focus on. Obviously, from a training perspective, there's a focus on what the player can do on their own within a game. But you've said already that from a group training perspective, there's an awful lot of stuff that relates to teamwork or system or positional elements within a game. How much credit, I suppose, do you put into that bucket? How much of what the work that you do thinks about the team that the player is coming from and what is expected from them within the tactical system?
Yeah, I mean, there's no point in me, working with something with a player which is going to contradict the message that the coach is giving. I'm trying to make that player more successful. First, get in the team, or if he's in the team, stay in the team and be successful. So I usually, example earlier when Noni. Graham Potter came into Chelsea, wanted Noni come a bit more tighter into the pockets, if you like, so a bit more rotation. So obviously the geography of the pitch where we work, we've got to prepare him for that.
And he tells you this.
He said, look, we're coming in. I'm being asked to play here, so I'm watching as well. So I watch his games. We know it's obviously, and he tells me. So right, let's work on some things around that because it's a bit different, So it's So you always got to, that's my job is to make them better players, and if there's no point in going against what the manager's saying. Yeah.
Okay. And in your experience, would you say that we talk about decision making a lot when it comes to football and footballers. In your experience, would you say that decision making is just instinctive most of the time with players at the top level? They're not really doing that much active live thinking about it.
Well, right? I mean, in terms of skill acquisition, that's how the process works. When you don't think about something, that's when you have the skill. When you're having an issue, that's when you got to think about it. So when you're challenging a player to do something new, or you identify an area where they can improve in, then suddenly I'm a bit more conscious of what I'm doing.
Right, and the way of doing that is just to do it over and over.
Yeah, do it over again. And that's the other misconception. You can predict what defenders are going to do. So we talked about, Noni, we first came in, Noni, unbelievable, one of the best young players in world football. I started working 4 years ago. For his super skill, loved going inside, very much left-sided like Robin from Robin. So we had a conversation early on in terms of there's so much space going to be on the right side here, in either side. Yeah. And he spent a lot of time working on his right foot, right side. We worked together a lot, and he's like, let's say he's so unique in terms of his mentality. For me, he could be and probably will be one of the best players in world football because he's so driven. But work on that in terms of, that and that's what the 1v1 tactics are, individual tactics are. Edge of the box, the defender wants me to go outside. I'm going to take outside. But before I go outside, I'm going to fake inside, unbalance him. That's the process we're working on. So we're working on those individual tactics, predicting what the defender's going to do, how can we unbalance him? And then obviously, then you need the end product, the right foot shot or the drive or the cross or the pass. And what was really powerful, we had that first initial 3 weeks when we first started working, and he went in the Cruyff Cup, which is the sort of the Dutch version of the Charity Shield. He scored 2 against Ajax, big derby, exactly what he worked on. He went one cutting inside and one going outside. Nice. And then I think that was where he was hooked after that.
Did you cheer when that happened?
I was jumping around the room, and I so often do. And it's funny because the boy I was working with earlier, young man I was working with earlier, he's at Reading. He said, I scored a goal last week, exactly what we worked on. And I said, I think if players don't do that, I'm disappointed because I need to be anticipating what they're doing in terms of what goals they score. So, all these guys, when they score a goal, I think, that looks like or a bit like what we worked on.
It's really interesting hearing you talk about Noni Madueke in that way, because I think last season, he went under the radar last season because he was very good, but playing alongside Cole Palmer, who plays kind of quite positionally similar to him, has that tendency to come inside, which meant there was much more space for Noni to go down in the wide areas. And I think he was so good particularly in the first half of that season because he had the ability to go on his right hand side and hit the byline and make things happen from there as well. So when you see those sorts of things happening, you must feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, and I think I said last year, he was the first season for me that he was really comfortable going both ways. And I think that's his work he's put on that. He identified that as an area to improve. What's going to make him a world-class wide player, and he's be able to go both ways and do that. And that when he's, the way he started for Arsenal this year was just sensational in terms of being able to go left, go right, and beat players and be direct, and was fantastic. So and now I am, I'm jumping around, giving myself high fives when I'm seeing these guys doing stuff which we've worked on. It's great.
Did you play football?
I didn't play pro or anything like that. So I went into college, played a bit at uni, and went into it straight after. So I'm unconventional. Yeah. I mean, and I get that question a lot. And I think it's fair enough. People say, well, you didn't play the game at the high level. How can you know? I said, but it made me probably work harder and I have to. But I think that's fair enough. I've had to do that to get, my 10 years in academy football at Chelsea and Tottenham to get that under my belt. And now I work as a consultant for, some of the best academies in the country. And they're I didn't. So it is more, but I think you do, like say Mourinho and some of these other people didn't maybe have that career in the game.
Well, the reason I ask is also, I often think about it with Mourinho because he seems to maybe overcompensate is an unfair thing to say, but he has a big personality. Let's put it that way. And I also ask it as someone that I love football. I'm a big football fan. I'm not I'm going to use stereotypical broad terms now. I'm not like a football person. When I have met footballers before, I feel like I'm very different to footballers, and I don't feel as though I'm accepted as a footballer. So the reason I ask you is if you didn't play pro, then it's less about whether you deserve to be there or whether you have the skills or not. It's more about how do you get the footballers to look at you and respect you. 100%. We talk about it all the time with managers. We say one of the reasons Zidane was a great manager is because every player in the dressing room says, that's fucking Zidane. He's been in every situation I could possibly be in. Whereas you don't have that. You have your experience of working at academies. So have you ever had problems before? Have you ever had to do anything to?
Not necessarily, but I think because I've been doing it 20 years, and give you an example. My first year at Chelsea, I had Jamal Musiala, Tino Livramento, Levo Colwell. Under 10s is my first season at Chelsea. Right. So they grow up with you, these young guys, this generation. Then they know of me. So then when people see the work and people I suppose Noni being famously and Flo Balogun embracing me and celebrating the work we do, then I think that breaks down the walls. I think there probably is still, let's say, a snobbery, but maybe people maybe suspect a little within the game, professional game in the Premier League games. Who is this guy? Who does this guy think he is? Yeah. But can't do nothing about it. You can control the controllables, and as long as these guys are accepting me, that's the most important thing.
That's cool. Do you do a lot of film review stuff? Do you watch back a lot of football, or do you watch football with your clients?
Yeah, so to watch a lot of the games. then obviously look at Y Scout, stuff like that, make some clips, feedback, look at things. I'll watch game, obviously, oh, look, this is something I've seen, let's work on it.
Yeah.
And, many times work with players, we've seen this issue, let's work on it, and they've gone and corrected it and scored or something like that. It's great. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a massive part of the game.
Okay, this is a weird question. When you go and do like a 5-day stint somewhere like Marbella, are you hanging out with the player in the evening, or do you go your separate ways at the end of the workday?
No, yeah, we did a session.
Right.
I go back to the hotel and literally I say I'm, having a swim and I'm watching Netflix.
It's not you're not eating dinner.
He's there at Nobu or whatever, and I'm having my tapas at the bar by myself. But yeah, it's not. I think it's that's I'm going to hang out at the beach bars and stuff,
And how much of work like that when you're with someone for an intensive amount of time? If you had to put like a percentage on it, so 80-20 or 90-10 or whatever, how much of it would you say is psychological or mental work, like, and how also the support that they get from you, because they're incredible footballers, they're at the top of their game, they're amazing professionals, they're also basically kids, right? Most of them, they're so young,
very young, successful guys,
and they need you, and they probably look up to you as a like father type figure as well. So how much would you say of the work that you do with them is of like a mental support, emotional support?
Yeah, massive amount. And even like the practice of that, we're trying to prepare them for the game, make them, confident, make them react to it. So trying to lay that down. But we're talking to them as things going, like say having chat with them and to keep going, especially with players who are in a bit of a dip or they're out of the team. You got to talk to them a lot and remind them, it's part of the process. We're always having those conversations with the guys. It's easy when certain players are up here and they're up, but the game's up and down. And you say, but when players have confidence, they're in that zone, then anything's possible.
One final question for me, but whenever I speak to guys who work in individual coaching, they're often quite negative about the more structural aspects of coaching, or even just like the fact that in many respects coaching is like imposing things upon a player. And there's definitely a movement towards this idea of like the game belongs to the players. The players should be free. The players are the ones who, as you said before, they're going to find those solutions.
Yeah.
And I think as a result, often there can be kind of a negativity about the idea of like trying to improve a player or trying to impose things upon a player in order to get them better. But you've tweeted quite a lot about this, that you think that sometimes those impositions can be useful for the player. They can make the player more free. So I wondered if you could talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, we're in a very strange world where the coaching fraternity have gone to this idea where the game is the teacher, and the game can be a great teacher, but it's not the only teacher. And it's like, if you look at now the FA courses, which are really great, I've loved them, but there's no real individual technical element in there anymore. It's more like they let the player find it, and it's like anything in this world, it's a binary now, black or white. We've gone like to extremes where players say, no, don't show them technique because you're, having, and it's just bizarre. It doesn't work. Every player at any level can and needs support. It's about scaffolding the learning. That's basic educational theory. So we have this weird sort of environment where people don't want to, and all the coaching courses are now set up as more game-based, conditions. So let them in the game, let them play, rather than doing any isolated work. And again, the misconception about that is no context. There should be context, can be context. And like anything, it's about balance. So if I'm doing a team session tomorrow, I'll do, 10 or 20 minutes of isolated technical work, always thinking about that link in the game, and then it's all, conditioned games. But for some reason, everyone's gone in one camp or gone in the other. And it's completely frustrating because what you see now, a lot of academy players have technical deficiencies. They can't use their weak foot because they don't isolate enough. Poor. They can't. They're one way to strike the ball because they're not challenged to strike the ball in the other ways. So they have to have a balanced understanding of all these top guys. And I've worked with Premier League players who have relatively poor technique in certain areas because no one's ever pulled them apart and tried to teach them that. So it's about when and where to do it. I'm not saying take kids out and do loads of drills, but like even beginners will benefit from understanding how to manipulate the ball, how to stay on the ball. We'd talk about the 3 R's. Receive, retain, release. These are the 3 key things you've got to work on. And if you can't, a lot of players drop out the game, so they can't do that. Because they haven't been taught or supported into developing that ball mastery.
Yeah, that's interesting. I quite like to think about it like it's craft, isn't it? In the same way that you would apply with art or like something like songwriting, for example. People often say when they write their best songs, they have no memory of doing it. And it just sort of comes through them almost, right? The spontaneity. but they still practice the craft because they're more likely to harness their unconscious if they have the practice and ability to do it, which I guess it's the same kind of thing in this situation, isn't it? It's like if you learn the technical skills, when you have the moment of spontaneity or magic on the football pitch, you're more likely to execute it well than you would be.
It's easier to be creative, I guess, if you've got more tools to utilise to be creative, right?
Exactly. If you have more mastery of the ball, you can be more creative, more interesting, more often unconventional, all those things.
Yeah. Okay. Reductive quickfire questions before I let you go.
Okay.
Who's the best current footballer?
Ooh.
Who's the best current footballer in the world?
They better have good technique, otherwise I'm going to be pissed off.
Yeah, I mean, I like the guys at PSG.
Yeah.
Vitinha, that's my sort of player. I really like him. Midfielder, both feet, carries the ball, travels the ball.
Yeah.
There's obviously Noni and Antoine. You've got to give them a drop in the Premier League. They're coming up. They're going to be there. But yeah, I like Vitinha. That's midfielder.
Yeah.
Because he's also a very unconventional, small player, quick. Probably wouldn't get much chance in the English academy.
Nice. I like that. Okay. Best current manager or coach?
Best current manager or coach?
Can't pick yourself.
Yeah, shame. I'm close second. I like what Arteta's doing.
Yeah.
As an Arsenal fan, it's great. It's good to see him doing well. I like, good attacking, positive football as well. In the Premier League, probably Arteta, you got to have. Steve
Hankey's been at him before. Big Arsenal
Look at
fan
him
in the
cheesing away in the background. Yeah.
He's so happy. Okay, who is going to win the Premier League? This one's easy.
Oh, Arsenal. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Just moving straight on. Next great player or players for us to watch out for. If you, I mean, I don't want you to have to name a bunch of children. But,
well, Rio Ngoma, who's Liverpool 16. Right. I worked with him when I was at Chelsea and also did some individual stuff with him. He's the best talent I've seen. Okay. Sensational, so he's could go all the way to the top. Talking, I know his brother, he joking say, "Come on, Ballon d'Or, that's on the target." So
nice.
He's one to watch definitely.
Great. Okay, and you have an app, don't you?
I've got an app called My Personal Football Coach. Right. Yeah. So
what does that do?
Yeah, it started off for players and parents. So players can download exercises, technical drills, specific courses. There's a virtual academy. Now grown into there's coaching resources on there as well. There's a new course for one-to-one coaches.
Right.
So there's nothing out there like that for people like myself who want to, refine their one-to-one coaching skills. And also work with clubs as well. So Arsenal have used it in their academy. Blackburn use it. Many other academies and grassroots clubs around the world. So basically online training for players, coaches, and clubs, basically.
Cool. Okay. And you are at My Football Coach on
My Football Coach on X and My Football Coach 1 on Instagram.
Oh no, My Football Coach has already taken on.
Well, no, actually, my account got deleted a few years ago, which I was mortified. That's probably like infringing trademark or something. I don't know why. But then, so I had to go My Football Coach 1, which was frustrating. But
got it.
You live, you learn.
We've uncovered his second job as a drug dealer.
It's like the story about Cliff Richard. Right, who was...
What's that one?
It's not his name, right, Cliff Richard. I don't know what his name is. But
I'll find out for you, don't worry.
His agent told him, you need a new name, but rather than going for Cliff Richards, go with Cliff Richard. Because when people say Cliff Richard, you can say, no, Cliff Richard with no S, because it makes people remember. Right. So people will remember that better now because you've said, well, it's My Football Coach with a 1 at the end. So.
It's certainly better than Harry Roger Webb.
That's better.
Poor old Cliff. There he goes. Okay, great. Well, Saul, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks to you also, John, because it's the end of the podcast now.
Yes, it is. Definitely the end.
Goodbye.